Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's presentation on green bag recycling. We're still working out a little bit of tech, so bear with us. My name is Molly Moorhead. I'm an AmeriCorps member serving with Conservation Nebraska's Common Ground program. Conservation Nebraska's mission is to protect our state's natural legacy by educating the public, supporting communities, and increasing civic engagement, which we accomplish through locally led education efforts and community engagement projects to address local conservation issues. So before tonight's speakers, there are just a few housekeeping things to go over. Your cameras will remain off and you will be muted throughout the presentation. Please type any questions you have in the chat or in the Q&A section, and we'll answer those at some point during or after the presentation. We'll save some time for that at the end. This presentation will be recorded and will be uploaded to Conservation Nebraska's YouTube page within the next couple of weeks. So if you miss any part of today's presentation, would like to revisit any part or share it with your friends, you'll be able to find it there. Following the presentation, we'll have a very brief survey, just a few questions that should take less than a minute to complete. The survey helps support programming like this one, so we appreciate you taking the time to fill those out. If anyone in attendance is interested in speaking with a Conservation Nebraska member regarding conservation issues in Nebraska or to find out more about what we do, I'll put our email in the chat. So tonight we welcome Karina Olivetti from Nebraska Recycling Council, Chris DeClerk of Revolution Plastics, and we have Jean Troush, who's a farmer who does also green bag sales. So we have a nice panel of people on this topic about grain bag recycling. So here we go. I'll kick it over to Karina to start us off.
Oopsie. Let me get to my beginning slide here. Okay, I am Karina Olivetti, a program director at Nebraska Recycling Council. And for those of you who don't know, our mission is to maximize the economic and environmental benefits of resource recovery in Nebraska. Our vision is a future in which all materials are reserved for their highest and best use, and landfill disposal is a last resort. We are also a statewide nonprofit member-based organization. So we're always excited to invite new members to our organization and help assist you and guide you in your sustainability and zero waste efforts. So please reach out to us. You can go to our website, nrcne.org, or just give us a call. We'd love to talk to you. I guess first I'd like to thank Conservation Nebraska for hosting this and collaborating and helping us put this together. It's always nice to have cohorts in the state doing similar work, and I love working with Conservation Nebraska. I recently just did a pumpkin smash bash out in Murray, Nebraska, which was super fun, and they do such great work around the state. I also want to thank the Nebraska Department of Water, Environment, and Energy and Nebraska Environmental Trust for their continued support throughout the years. Our organization has been around for like 20 plus years in different names. There's been mergers, whatever, but they've always been very supportive of our work. So, and it's crucial to what we do. So how NRC got involved with green bag recycling, it started back in 2020, a project that was funded through the Nebraska Environmental Trust. I actually didn't come on until 2023. That's when I was hired for the main role of organics recycling and ag-related recycling across the state. So I had to learn quickly about this project, and I called a lot of people. I know Jean was super helpful and getting me like up to speed on this project. There's many reasons why these should be recycled instead of landfilled, or unfortunately, a lot of times they're illegally burned because it's a very dense material. They're big, they're heavy, and there's a lot of them. And the access to recycling, unfortunately, across our state has not been great. Until we're going to learn from Chris in a little bit about how this can change. So this project, we partnered with First Star Fiber and their sister company that's called Solutions Plastic, which they installed a bunch of new equipment that was um, pelletizing plastic films and different plastics and then making plastic lumber. So that's kind of how I got started in Nebraska recycling in general. So it was kind of a fun, strange beginning to my career here, but they're you can see if none of you if any of you don't know what they look like, they're very big and they're very prevalent across many Midwestern states that grow grain. Um, so some of the outcomes of the project, Carson Co. Global consulting firm, they have an extensive barriers and benefits report on our website. They interviewed a ton of farmers, did a bunch of background stuff, and came up with a list of reasons why they are or aren't being recycled. We also established 2 hub collection sites and funded them for improving their collection sites with pavement. So it's easier to collect them, these grain bags. One was in Ogallala, and then the other was in Valentine. And so the pilot project that this came out of this, Solutions Plastic did process a sample of grain bags and made some lumber, but their equipment just proved insufficient for the scale of which they need to be processed in our state. We keep getting calls all the time about what can we do with our grain bags. And First Star and Solutions was no longer an option. So that's how we reconnected with Revolution Plastics out of Little Rock, Arkansas, which is really just a little neighboring state. It's not that far. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first presenter, Chris DeClerk of Revolution Plastics, based out of Little Rock. He's worked with Revolution for a long time. They are a leader in producing and recycling a wide range of plastic materials. With a focus on large volume grain bag recycling, Chris is dedicated to keeping agricultural plastics out of landfills and building a reliable recycling stream. Through Revolution's free collection program, Chris helps farmers and businesses recycle responsibly by following simple preparation guidelines outlined in the company's standard operating procedures. And then following Chris, we have a firsthand experience of Gene Troush of Minden, Nebraska, who is a longtime grain producer, grain bag dealer, and recycler with Revolution Plastics. So he's going to give you his firsthand experience. And then following the presentations, we'll have a Q&A and you can ask all the questions. And I'm excited to learn what Chris has to say. And thank you for everyone coming tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Karina. And I think that I may be able to have the share sound thing here figured
Yes.
out. Maybe
Okay.
select
Fingers
this option
crossed.
if you want others to hear. Check just 1 second.
And thanks for being here, Chris.
No problem. Well, we'll see. Optimize for video sharing. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. It's not allowing me to share the sound, but I'll go ahead and get it started here. Really appreciate everyone's patience. Just 1 second. Let me get this pulled up. So thanks, Karina, for the intro, and thanks everyone for being on. I'm Chris DeClerk. I'm actually an irrigation specialist from Little Rock. I've been with the company with Revolution now for about 16 years, and I was charged about a year ago to help spearhead our collections when it comes to different types of plastics. I've worked with Delta Plastics and with Revolution Plastics in our polytubing environment, which we'll talk about for a little bit here. But as I've had success here at the Delta with collection of polytubing and then recycling of that particular type of plastics, I was charged to go into more of a kind of a wide scale type of grain bag recycling. And the grain bags are a really good recycled plastic or plastic from the field that we can then bring back to Stuttgart. And then what we make out of that is plastic trash bags. So it's a really, really good source of plastic for us. We clean dirty plastics very, very well. We're good at cleaning all different types of ag and horticulture-like plastics, but have found that there's a ton of grain bags out in Nebraska. There's a ton of grain bags also in Kansas. There's a ton of grain bags in Arkansas and a ton of grain bags in this area. But we've just really have been able to really excel in the way that we recycle that type of plastic and wash it really, really well, where we can get it down to a post-consumer pellet that then we can make other things out of that without having to landfill all of this. None of us want to see all of this plastic go to the landfill if we can reuse it, and none of us want to have to pay to have it landfilled if somebody else can use it for another product. And that's exactly what we do. So I tried this video a minute ago and it didn't have volume to it at all. We'll try it again and see if it does. Um, Thumbs up. Can you hear it at all or no? No?
Oh,
Well, I'll just kind of talk through it.
should we
So
try to make you host again and see if that helps?
we might. It's like a minute and a half long if we wanted to try it, or I could just talk through it. It's really the only one that I have
Okay.
that has audio.
Well, Chris,
Yes.
is that audio? See how it has that cross through it? What is it?
Yeah, yeah. So that's I've
Oh,
unmuted it now.
oh, yeah.
So So this is Scott Coleman. He's our CEO, and he's kind of talking about how we recycle and just how we bring things in. We have a closed loop system, and this is the pellets right here, or the PCR that we make. We can make that PCR into plastic trash bags even, and I'm sorry, plastic food bags even. And some of this plastic that we're recycling out of the field is actually getting wrapped around kids' cheeseburgers these days. So it's a really wild thing how well we can wash it and how well we can clean this plastic to the point where it's very super regulated. So we're not only in the ag films, but we're also in kind of a food and drug related realm also, where we can take some of this really dirty plastic and you can kind of see the process. This is flake right here. Then we ended up getting it down to what's called this recycled resin, and I'll kind of pause it right there. The beauty of the resin is that we can use it for other products that are internally. We do make grain bags. We do make pond liners. We do make other things that are ag related bags, but we can also sell the PCR into the environment for someone else that's looking to make like Coke bottles. So just because we make whatever it is that's coming out of a grain bag doesn't mean that that grain bag could be recycled down and also make something else like this, maybe this Nalgene bottle, or maybe some a mouse, pad here, or something like that. Anything that's plastic, we can get that a PCR, and then we can sell that back into the environment. And that's kind of one of those offshoots of that closed loop recycle. Not only is it within the hood of our business, but we can take that PCR and shove it outside that hood for somebody that wants lead environmental points, that wants sustainability points that they can apply for in this day and age, and they can use that PCR for something instead of getting that PCR out of the petroleum and gas industry. So I'd like to pause there on that. That's a good kind of view. Now, when that PCR comes in, this shows kind of a laboratory check. We have to check it real specifically and there's a stringent QA/QC process. Each one of those individual pellets, they're cut, and they're looked at real specifically. Sometimes those pellets will go into a more um, if you can imagine like a grain bag is a high use thing, and if it rips, it's bad, right? Because all the grain goes everywhere. So that's going to be really high quality PCR. But with like a plastic trash bag that's holding leaves or it's holding garbage, it's not getting banged around and used a whole bunch. So the lower quality PCR can go into that. So that's what our laboratory department does. It kind of tests the ability of each one of those individual pellets to make sure that whatever stream that it's going into, that it's the most highest quality PCR meant for that particular region. So yeah, I'll go on a little bit here. So we have certifications that we've applied for, and we got through that food and drug realm. We had to get a lot of certifications in order to get that going. So the trash bag is really our main thing that we recycle the majority of everything into, and we make a ton of different can liners. Okay. All right, so that was kind of the first video. Appreciate that, and thanks for your patience, kind of me walking you through that. But just again, institutional, retail, transportation, ag, construction. These are all different type of plastics that we take and kind of offshoot back into the environment. So we like to have what we call this closed loop system of creating these products. Sometimes even instructing how to use the products through certain models and different departments that we have, like our poly tubing. We pick that plastic back up, and then we can recycle it back and then either put it back into the products that we have, or we can then send them to somebody else that's making different products. So these are all the different products that we currently make. We make commercial bags, we make stretch films, we can make silage bags, pallet covers. But you see here this one that's circled here, this Delta poly tubing. That's where everything really started, or the genesis of the entire company. Some 30 years ago, with the soybean advent of the soybean exploration, the advent of poly tubing came about, and it was just a roll, right? And a roll comes out of our factory, and it goes onto the back of a PTO or back of a tractor. And that individual roll right there comes out and it spins out a big long line of tubular plastic that looks like this. And it's in different diameters in order to accommodate different well volumes. So as it comes out, the farmer puts it out on the ground and throw a little bit of dirt on it. And he stretches out this big line. You put it on the top end of the field, and it waters down via rows. And there's a lot of this that's out in Nebraska right now with pivot corners and things like that we've done some work on. All of that ends up getting recycled. The second year that we were making polytube, we found out all this stuff's great and it's saving the farmers a lot of time. It's saving them a lot of money. It's really, really easy to irrigate. Well, what happens at the end of the year and after the end of harvest? It's all garbage, right? And so since we made it all, that's all our garbage right now. So we had to tie in some loop system of being able to go out and collect it all from the farmer, bring it back, and somehow either make more of it or make something else out of it. And since that polytubing gets beat up so bad, you drive pickers, you drive fertilizer, you drive things over the top of it. All of that PCR, all of that poly pipe did not go back into the poly pipe. It now all goes back into trash bags. So everything that we use that we take in, it's now all a trash bag instead of poly pipe. So at the end of the year, a farmer will use the poly pipe. They'll roll it up. They'll stack it up. We even have a cool little application where they'll show us where the poly pipe is, and then we'll go and we pick that up. And sometimes we even incentivize the farmer. The nicer the rolls, the easier they are, the better they're stacked up and things like that. The easier it is for us to get to them. So we've got about 55 semi trucks circumnavigating a 500-mile radius around Stuttgart, whereas our central hub of recycling. And we sell polytubing to about 5 states all throughout the Delta. And we send these trucks out on dispatch missions, just like UPS or FedEx, all the time, and picking up all this spent poly pipe. So the better it's stacked, the better it looks like, the better we can cut down, and the less it's not as cost prohibitive for us to go out and to pick up nice rolls versus a bunch of spaghetti drawn plastic that's all over the place. So that's a very, very nice pile of pipe. And when a truck driver pulls up on that pile, a lot of people will think that's garbage. But to me, when I drive through the Delta and I see that type of stuff, I'm like, yeah, way to go, farmer. You know what I mean? That's a nice pile of pipe. So we pick that up. We'll even incentivize the farmer, for a good return on investment. So we make the pipe. We also instruct how to use it the best for water conservation. Then we pick this stuff up. So
Can I
yeah,
interrupt Chris for
yeah,
a moment?
yeah.
Before you get deeper into all the different uses, it occurred to me that there might be some people who are attending right now who actually don't know what green bags are, what they're made out of, and how big they are.
Hmm.
Because I remember when I first heard of that, I was imagining like a bag that you buy that has like 50 pounds of rice in it from the grocery store, and that is not what you're talking about. So,
Nah, that
could you give a tiny intro to that before you go deeper into the other super interesting stuff you're going into?
I was so I'm about to get into grain bags. This is just our kind of our backing on polypipe. So yeah, if I've confused you as to what the heck this white stuff is, this is not grain bags. This is just kind of where we've started and how we kind of recycle from the farm in, because we want to try to emulate kind of that same process on what the stuff should look like before we can even come and get it, off of your farm, which Gene's gonna talk about a little bit more. But that's what a truck looks like when we go and pick up poly pipe. Okay. It's got a big bar on it. It's got a big grappling hook. We can drive all around. So we got, 40 of those that we drive around and we pick up poly pipe. And this is what we make it out of, the different trash bags. That far right is a big roll of trash bag wrap that it's perforated. So that's all post-consumer recycled poly tubing and grain bags that are used to put into those particular bags. And we can even change the color of it from white to blue to pink to yellow and make it black. We can make it white. We can make it gray. We can make it translucent. We can do whatever. So again, just one more time with our system, we collect it, we recycle it, resin comes off of it, we sell that to somebody else. We can actually put the resin into our manufacturing. We can then make more stuff out of it if we own the company, or we can ship that resin off to somebody else. But it's meant to be this whole small closed loop and then bigger closed loop system, all based around recycling plastic. And this is about how much we've, to this day, we recycle every year about 300 pounds of material each year, and we divert about 3 billion pounds of plastic out of the landfills every year. So all the stuff that we're doing to get it out, that's a lot of expense that we're diverting, being paid for, to landfill, and keeping all that, that used gold for us out of the landfill and bring it back. So, all right. So this is a little video. We're starting to get into grain bags here. And let's see if I can play this without it skipping around too. I hope I don't have a lot of advertisements on the front end of this. I apologize if I do. Yep. Give me just 1 second here. Yep. Hopefully just one. There we go. Yeah, so this is a great video. This guy's kind of chugging along out. He's going to pick up some grain bags out. I'm going to skip forward a little bit just so you can see him kind of at work out in the field. But this is a Nebraska guy. So this is all grain bags that you see that's laying out in the field. Now he's got this front end loader here and he's scooping the grain bags up. This all had corn in it at one particular time, and this is in Nebraska. So he's kind of getting it ready and getting it in line to bring out. But these grain bags are huge. They're huge, long grain bags, as long as a football field. And they, there's, I don't know, Gene, how tall are they? How tall are those bags?
Well, they're 10 foot in diameter.
Yeah, 10 foot in diameter. But how tall are they if you were to stand right
probably
next to one?
6 foot.
Yeah, so 6 foot tall, and they can go on and on as far as the eye can see, So they stretch all the way out, and these guys will run. And I'll skip forward a little bit. This is the roller on the back of it. So kind of like a poly tubing roller that you saw earlier, where the pipe's coming off of it. It hooks up to some type of a PTO, and it's got a little sleeve in the middle of it with a bar, and they'll feed that pipe down through that sleeve and just turn the PTO on, and it'll start just rolling and rolling and rolling this grain bag until it forms up into this big long row. And you can see this line of it. Here's one here. There's another one here. Gene, this one might go all the way up this way, right? And then might come even over the top of the hill, and there's another one there. But he's getting it all organized and getting it together to feed into that system. And I'll skip forward a little bit here. So there he is. He's feeding that into this roller, you can see. So this is kind of the start of the process after the farmers dumped all the grain out of it. It doesn't have to be super clean. This is pretty clean right here. Sometimes it'll be a lot muckier, but you can see how he's he's just pulling that. He's got a big bunch of it here. He'll have to straighten out a little bit before it gets up on the roller. But they're pulling it in by way of this PTO, and it'll form a big ball. Not all rolls are created totally equal, as Gene will tell you. But
no.
Yeah, some of them are a little soggy, some of them are smaller, some of them are bigger. But these guys have got a good roller, and that's what in order for us to recycle, this is the starting point of really everything. And the reason why I like this video so much is a lot of times we'll skip past this particular part, Karina, and just go to the already staged grain bags, wherever it is. But this is a paramount piece that if we want to get the stuff out of the field, these farmers are going to have this type of roller or not this specific one, but some type of roller in order to get out and get it out easy and have a little education as to, how to get it into that ball, how to get it into the ball that we need in order to come pick it up. I'll skip forward a little bit here. They're kind of just showing the process, how to get it on there. And then they'll wind it up coming up. I think right here's a good one. Sorry about that. Yeah, there we go. So it's a big long video, and I've sent this video around to our crew just to use as an example, especially for farmers that are looking for different types of rollers and how to roll it up. But I think we all get the gist. Sooner or later, this has got to come out of the field. It's got to be rolled up. It's got to be cut. It's got to be placed, and it's got to be hauled off because we're not going to come get it in that field right there. It's got to go to a guy like Gene. It's got to go to a guy like Spud. It's got to go to some type of co-op or some type of place where we can get a truck into it. So there's some work on the farmer to get it out of it, but if they roll it up tight and get it into these rolls and they've got the weight to, available, we'll come get it at no cost. So I'll go ahead and get out of this here and get back. All right, so Gene, you recognize these pics. Gene,
Oh yeah.
the last time Gene was out, he graciously took some footage for me, and this is Gene's yard. So Gene has a place in a really really good stock yard where he can stock all this. And Gene, if you wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the process on how the farmers get it here, I'll let you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm Gene Trauschman in Nebraska. I'm a farmer. I raise corn and soybeans, but I also sell grain bags. Not their grain bag, Revolution's grain bag, but a different brand. But I take the any bag back as long as you're buying from me. But yes, it's grain. I've been looking for years to find a spot to what to do with the used grain bags because everybody's going to landfills. And I came across Revolution Plastic, and they've been great to work with. They send a semi out, a van trailer that's off the road, and I fill it up with grain bags that's with skid steer with a grapple fork. And that is the back end of a grain trailer, a semi trailer that I'm filling. That's one that I took a picture of to the right, and that's the left is a skid steer. But a grain bag is anywhere from 250 to 500 foot long. That they're 10 foot in diameter. The 500 footers will hold about 25 semi loads of grain, where the 250 footer will hold about 11 semi loads of grain. So, for an example for perspective, and yeah, to get them wrapped up, that's the only way I will take them back if they're wrapped up because you can't handle them if they're not. And it's the best for everybody anyway. Well, I just seen what he's going to run for a video there.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you talk about it while it's running.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting.
There you go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the pile that I got. That's probably a semi load sitting there. There's about 70, 80 bags that'll go. I grab one or two and it takes about an hour and a half to fill a semi load. And then they go down the road to Arkansas to get made into trash bags. So it's been a great partnership with them guys to do this. Because I don't know there is, I think maybe one or two other places, but it's the best. This is the best that I've got going right now. And that's me and the skid steer grabbing what I need to go put into the semi because you got to fit them in there just right to make room for everything that's in there to place it in there. And
And
I've been through the plant at Arkansas. They have a very neat deal how they recycle, how they clean all the plastic and all that. It is very interesting to go through. You wouldn't believe how they do that also, all the cleaning they do to it. So I'm just seeing what was next on the video.
Yeah, that was really it.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fine.
yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
So that you saw that loading dock too, that little homemade
Yes.
loading dock that Gene had. Gene, could you talk a little bit more about that real quick?
Well,
Yeah.
in order to get into a semi trailer, you have to have a loading dock of some kind. And I know there was a NRD that was south of me just a little bit that tried to do it, but their problem was they was having problems with getting crap coming into them because it was all unmanned places of where people was dumping stuff off. So people were dumping off things that ain't supposed to be there, and it was a government affiliated deal, so it just didn't work. And I do get some junk that ain't supposed to be in mine also, but yes, you got to have a loading dock to get into a semi, and the equipment to make it all work out right. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
Chris,
So it's a so again, there's no price, there's no fee included with
correct,
this. If we
correct.
have the weight, and if 40,000 pounds is kind of the weight, and as Gene's done it over time, future farmers will too, and they'll be able to determine about how many rolls they need in order to fit a truck. I can't tell you exactly that 50 rolls is 40,000 pounds because none of those rolls are going to look the same or anything like that. And I'm
Depends
not going
if
to be able,
it's rained or not.
yeah,
Yeah.
if it's rain,
If we
if
got,
they're soggy or anything like that. So it's a trial by error thing, and if you get 40,000 pounds and you've got a good place to stage them, just like you saw where Gene is, if the bales are wrapped nice, if they don't have a lot of debris around them, if you have a way to load them, like you saw Gene with the Bobcat there, if you've got a ramp to get them in the back of the truck, we'll come get them. It's as easy as that. It's yeah.
I just want to make a plug too.
Yeah.
Nebraska Recycling Council offers recycling equipment grants. So if somebody doesn't have a loading dock, that could be an option to get some funding to get a loading dock through us. Just putting it out there.
Yep. Yep.
yeah,
That's great.
I got a scale for me from you guys because there's different semi guys that demand to be weighed to make sure that they're not overweight.
Yep. Yep. Yeah,
I
there
know
we
it's a
yeah,
pain. I had it once that the front end was too heavy and I had to unload the whole thing in order to start over because I had the front too heavy because it was muddy, wet plastic I was dealing with, and I got caught that I put too much in the front.
Gene's the perfect person to have on this to tell of the
It's not
woes.
fun.
Yeah. But yeah, if they're loaded, they don't have to be loaded in any real specific way either, Gene.
No,
do you
but
load
you
them
guys
side?
still get
Yeah.
your 40,000 in there.
You got to get 40,000 pounds in there. Right. That's what we've got to have. But yeah, some will try to kind of load them maybe front ways and then sideways. I think Karina, we hauled off 3 truckloads for Spud recently, and he was asking about how to load them, and I just said, just make sure you get us 40,000 pounds, and we came and got them, real quickly. It takes us about 3 or 4 days after the order's in, maybe a week. That weather will start getting a little bit nasty, so it'll be slower now, and it'll pick back up in the spring. But that's really the gist of things. That's where, there's a lot more to the company than what I gave. But if we're hitting on the grain bag side of things, it's just everything's really on this sheet. We got to have the weight. You got to load them yourself, and we'll come and get the bags.
You happen
Seems
to
like
have
it's, oh, go ahead.
a video queued of your facility
Mm.
and that process? Because it really is a state of the art facility on your website where I was just like, wow, this is
Yeah,
amazing.
I could probably dig. I mean, if anybody wanted to dig around and look up, there's like
Yeah.
2 or 3. I'd be digging around on the website, but they're like extrusion lines is what they are. They're blown film extrusions, and
Hmm.
we that's how we make the poly pipe, and that's how we make the bags. And then the facility at Stuttgart is very, very similar, but in the complete opposite of things whenever you think about it. All that stuff is coming into the facility. It's being washed through these big trommels and things like that. It comes down to almost like a flake. And then it ends up being like this little, well, you can't see it because I'm blurred out. But anyway, it's these little white pellets. Sorry about that. It's these little white pellets. And that's really the PCR is the bread and butter of our entire operation. The more we can use the PCR and whatever that we're using, the more that PCR we can sell out. Not only is it so much more environmentally friendly as to what we're doing in the future for plastics, but it's definitely a better cost relation for us in the future on our products if we can put that PCR back into it. But that revolutionplastics.com, Revolution Plastics Company, if you look that up, there's a bunch of different animated videos and things that we do with trash bags and things that we do with food bags. Chipotle food bags are all poly pipe. Wendy's food bags are all poly pipe. That's really, really wild
Yeah,
to think of. And that stuff gets, when it's out in the field, it goes through not only irrigation, but there's chemicals that are being flown and stuff like that. And we stringently are regulated as to how clean that stuff has to be before it gets into that. So you can imagine, those awards that we've gotten on how clean this plastic is a real deal as to being able to get admitted into that particular type of plastic stream.
definitely.
Sounds like it's so doable for farmers. Like as I am listening to you all talk, like you have to do a little bit of infrastructure, but basically you make it pretty easy if a farmer does want to recycle instead of landfill these, right? Because if you're taking them to the landfill, that's a whole thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And the difference,
for grain
it's
bag wise, a lot of farmers wouldn't have enough for a semi load. You'd have to go together with a bunch of other farmers. On average, there's a couple farmers that'd be big enough, but most everybody'd have to be two, three, four, five different farmers coming together to get a 40,000 pound load.
and that's where that project, the NRC project came in, was establishing those hubs. Um, but it's still just we need to get it up and running where Revolution is picking them up and it's a constant streamlined process. But it would also be nice to have more hubs around our state. Because I think that's another issue. There's a lot of grain producers in the southeastern area, and there's no place to really take them here. It's mainly in Ogallala and Valentine. So if we can establish more of these hubs around our state, it really could work. With it, it's not, it's free for revolutions to take them, but it's not without some effort from the farmer and the hub because there is work involved. Like Chris was saying, they're not going to take just like randomly crappy little tubes, like strewn about everywhere. It's got to be very orderly, and the person
Mm-hmm.
also has to load them. So
Yep.
having that process in place would really help make this be successful in the future. Molly, I think there's some questions too in the Q&A. Do you want to
Yeah,
handle those?
I'll just leave the
yeah, for
screen
sure.
up too. If anybody wanted to read these little SOPs, I'll just, if y'all don't
Yeah,
mind.
yeah,
Yeah,
please
yeah,
do.
okay,
Yeah, we just had one question so far. I
okay.
thought I'd give it a couple more minutes, but this is a great question. So, someone asked, how are the grain bags typically emptied of grain?
How are they emptied?
Mm-hmm.
There's a machine, just like there's a special machine to put the grain into the bag. There's a different machine that takes them out. And we can fill a semi in 6 minutes with this machine. So it takes the plastic and pulls the machine into the plastic and it augers it all out. And then when you're done, depending on the type of machine you got, either you already have a bale made or you unroll it on the ground and then you use the wrapper that Chris shown in his video. There's, to wrap it back up. And I know there's at least four different styles of machines out there,
Mm-hmm.
companies that make them machines. So So it's it's all mechanical of how it all gets out of there. And it's really slick and easy. So
Hey, Chris, I know you want to read through the SOPs, right?
Yeah, I can right here. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
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 finish it up.
yeah. So if you could just look at the screen. I know there's a lot of information here. We talk about the reason why I hit hard on the polytubing rolls, and I could have shown a big no-no pile of poly pipe, which is, if you can imagine, just a big, huge mountain of spaghetti plastic laying out on the turn row, in a field. That's like our driver's worst nightmare to come pick that up. Not only does it take a long time, we just don't even know how much plastic is even there. So that very first one, rolling it into a tight bale and using the equipment that Gene's talking about, it's not only going to make your life a little bit easier getting it up out of the field, but it's going to make it a lot easier getting into the truck and getting it back here to Little Rock. So if you could roll those bags up with maybe one piece of twine, get 40,000 pounds, you then call us. We also have what's called an app called Push for Pickup, and you can use this app on your phone. We haven't really gotten there yet, and I haven't spoken about that yet, but it's a widely used app here in the Delta that you can bypass calling anybody and just say, here you go. I've got a load right here. I'm at this particular location. Come and get it. And Gene would never have to call me again. Type of thing. Even though I love talking to Gene whenever I can, but it's you can avoid a lot of conversation that way. But I teach people how to use the app, and it goes directly to our dispatch, and then we dispatch that truck out, and we can come get it within a week. But it needs to be in a good spot, and I think Gene can contest to this. If you're way off the beaten path with a semi truck and you're way down a real big gravel road, that's even tough to get to. So these co-ops that are off the side of the highways, if they're a short distance from where that truck has to get, if that truck can even, if it's a hard time for that truck to turn around or has to back up or gets kind of jackknifed in a place, it's not a good spot to store these bags. So I know there's plenty of open ground, around co-ops and dealers and pesticide and fertilizer dealers and stuff like that. So, 40,000 pounds, wrap tight, a good location, have a ramp, have a bobcat, and then do it a few times and you got it. And just call us up and we got it. So, yeah, that's really the SOPs of it all. A big 53-foot dry van will come out and pick it up. At the bottom of this page, you'll kind of see pictures of examples of the grain bag roller and examples of load. And I think the video kind of really did it justice. Some people will use just a regular forklift. I think Spud just used one. Gene's got the claws on it where Gene can actually get two rolls at a time, like this now, and then take it up in there to save a little bit of time. So again, with a little bit of use and a little bit of practice, I think I think anybody can really get the process down.
Do you
yeah, I
have
can
more
do.
slides, Chris? Because
What's
I
that?
do have some questions in the Q&A.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. That's all that I've got for slides.
That was all. Yeah, what were you
Hmm.
going to say first, Gene?
Go ahead,
Well,
Gene.
yeah, I can do it in an hour and a half now. Load a
Hour and a half.
semi where it used to be two and a half hours. Now I can do it in an hour and a half. So it don't take that long.
That's not bad, yeah.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so we have these are all from Samantha Gentry. I'll
Okay.
start with the first one. Since pickup is complimentary, how are you making a profit on the recycling?
Yeah. So we take that. If we had to take virgin resin and make that plastic bag, then it would cost us so much more than being able to take that post-consumer recycled resin and make that plastic bag. It just widens our profit margins when we can take garbage that's already been made out there and come get it instead of paying for it and then having to go through the process of making it again. So, and that will fluctuate over time with the markets of PCR and the market. As fuel goes down, sometimes things are higher and sometimes things are lower. But in times where fuel prices are really high and the cracked petroleum is really high and virgin resin is really high, it's very attractive to get plastic out of the field to widen our margins to make money off those particular products. Plus, we are definitely an environmentally friendly company, and we want to go that that next step just to keep that stuff out of the landfill for our end user. So our polypipe people, if we didn't pick that up, they would have to go landfill it every single year. And so a return on investment for polypipe not only means that they buy the polypipe, but they're also invested in us coming in cleaning up their farm at the end of the year. And that's a really, really big deal for them. And it's a return on investment to us every single year. Not only that the polypipe works really, really well on irrigating their crop, but that will come clean up your farm at the end of the year and dispose of that stuff without you having to pay to landfill it.
That's a good segue into her next question of would you say most of your clients recycle their poly tubing?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I would say over half of them do.
Okay.
And that's growing every single year as well. I do think that farmers are becoming more environmentally conscious when it comes to water conservation. We live in an area right now where our aquifer is declining, so they're using best management practices and can get paid back for certain tools for irrigating. And we also incentivize those farmers, to give us that plastic back, but it also has this idea of doing good for the environment at the same time. So they're rolling it back up, they're putting it in a place where it used to be buried, sometimes even burned, and that's now illegal to do. So
yeah,
more and more and more is becoming recycling. And the beauty of that app, it allows us to track things that are going out and things that are coming in. So a lot of times we'll even know that there's polytubing still, lying out on the ground somewhere. And then we'll be able to reach out to those farmers and say, hey, we know that you bought some here. We're willing to clean you up, roll it up, and we'll come get it.
All right. Her next question. Since your pickup locations are expanding, are there any thoughts on opening another location to reduce transportation?
Yeah, I wish. That's a big question. So yeah,
we would love that here in
oh
Nebraska.
man,
Start a new end market here.
yeah. So check this out. That app that I've helped develop just over the last 18 months has decreased tons of gallons of diesel fuel that we usually would burn just going
Yeah.
out and finding the plastic, calling on the phone, writing down on 5x7 note cards, here's where the plastic is, and then go back out and get it with the same stupid truck.
You've improved the efficiency.
So we incentivize that end user here in the Delta just to say, hey, it's coming off. Another thing is the timeliness of it all. When it starts raining in December in the Delta, we can't get anywhere in the Delta, just like it is out in Nebraska. When the roads get icy, we won't be able to get grain bags probably for, until spring, until everything thaws out, and starts drying. So I would love to have trucks all over Nebraska and then a recycling facility up there. But our Stuttgart facility right now washes and recycles so well that that's really our only hub right now of recycling of our operations. Yeah.
Okay.
I wish. Yeah.
Yeah, we do too.
Truck maintenance is also a big issue with us with all these trucks that are out on the road. Yeah.
Do the green bags or polytubing have PFAS or PFOS in them?
What's that now? They have what?
The green bags or polytubing contain PFAS, those forever chemicals.
Yeah,
I'm sure they do.
I'm sure that they do in some time. I don't really know the kind of, the chemical analysis or the makeup, the hexenes, metallocene, and things like that go into the grain bags or into the polytubing. I know that it's just lay flat polyethylene, and that's not the same as like a molded plastic, like Coke bottle plastic. This is very, very pliable type of stuff. Yeah.
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 And then her last one, do you make or have you considered any compostable products?
Yeah. Like composting the stuff up. Yeah. There's been some studies done where maybe we could compost it like right on the side of the field, but it all has to be, it's the majority of the stuff that we deal with is extremely dirty. It's really, really filthy. So it has to go through a process of being washed. It has to go through a process of being like separated out. The reason why we have to have it rolled tight is because usually there's like wood and debris and all types like tires and things like that are all in the mix of all this stuff. So we not only have to bring it in, but we have to separate all this stuff out from the stuff that we don't want, and then we have to wash all this stuff really, really, really well. And some of it has to be washed more stringently than others. The shale gas pond liners, excuse me, they're full of chemicals. They're full of shale extraction chemicals. We're the only ones that I know of that can actually pull those chemicals and separate it away from the plastic so that the plastic can then be reusable in an area. Because that stuff's bad news, if it continues to be used and continues on. And that a lot of those chemicals have to actually be incinerated.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Can I jump
Well,
in for
thanks.
a second?
Yeah.
Thanks so much for answering those questions and to Samantha for asking them. And we have time
Problem.
for more,
Great
but I'm
questions.
supposed to launch a survey for participants and I'm just not finding it on my screen. And I'm wondering if anyone else sees it as a possibility, if I've done something kind of squirrely and I'm hidden it from myself.
Where would it be, Molly?
Do you want me to stop
Normally
sharing? You want me to stop sharing my
maybe
screen?
try it. Maybe try
Okay.
stop share. I don't think
Yeah,
that's an issue.
I just did.
Um, Okay, so at the bottom, normally I would see just an option to, I forget what it's called, but then I'd click on it and it would have the option to share a survey. And um,
Samantha says hit the three dots.
okay, the three dots, let's try. I wonder, okay, yeah, the three dots, I don't actually have,
You don't have it?
I have three dots, but I don't have the option to share
All
the
my
survey.
options say record, transcript, whiteboard apps, transfer meeting to room, and reset.
I think I just
That's what
did
I
it. I see feedback survey and I just launched it.
Oh, I
Oh,
think that you were host. We made you host. That's what it was. That's why
There
I
you go.
couldn't see it.
So
Okay,
okay.
does
so thanks so much for everyone's understanding. If you could fill out this survey very quickly, that would be super helpful for our programming. And you can continue if there's some questions, you can continue to answer questions yeah, while that survey is up.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Jean, how long have you been recycling these green bags with Revolution Plastics?
Oh, probably 8, 10 years, I suppose. So how time flies.
Yeah. So you're a pro at this.
Yeah, it's been a while. So yeah,
Okay.
we've been doing it for quite a while and learned quite a bit as we go.
Yeah, I wonder, because I know I've heard from Western Resources Group in Ogallala, where one of the collection hubs was established. I think for them, she emailed me yesterday and said that the loading of them was not cost effective as far as labor. So she wants to definitely connect with you, Chris, and talk about how they can streamline the process to make it better economically viable for them.
hmm
Because I do think it's probably a learning curve. And Gene, you've been at it for a while, so you've got it down. But I think if you're not used to doing it, it probably does take some time.
Oh yeah, you got to know what you're doing. Like I said, used to be over 2 hours. Now I can do it in an hour and a half. So,
Yeah.
and you got to have good rolls. I've told all my customers I ain't taking it if it's not a good roll. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you got polytube in there, which I've had some floated in, that makes it a lot tougher then because then it is that spaghetti pile that Chris was talking about, and then it's a pain. So,
Where do you get these rollers? Like, can you just get those anywhere from your farmer's co-op, or where would you
boards.
say what?
You said boards?
The
No, the
roller, the from the
rollers.
Oh,
field roller. Yeah.
roller. Well,
Yeah.
there's different companies that sell them. Dual Lift sells one.
Okay.
Um, oh, there's one in Kansas. I think it's Honeybee. I forget what it's called now. There's the one that Chris was showing. That's out of Canada, and I do have that same identical machine. It's a great machine. That's the one that because we used to have a couple other kinds, and Or you can use a round hay baler.
Hmm.
I've had different guys bring them in, and we used to use one of them also to wrap the plastic. So there's all different kinds of ways of doing it, just a matter of getting it wrapped up.
Okay, so you could do a DIY roller
Oh
with
yes.
just a
Oh
bale,
yes. I
a
had one
bale.
of them too. I
Okay,
made my own originally, so
yeah.
Sure.
yes.
Well, that's good to know. Samantha has another question. Is it illegal to burn the grain bags all over the US? I'm pretty sure that's a hard
Yeah,
yes,
I think so.
because
Yeah.
the Clean
Yeah.
Air Act is everywhere in the US. So yeah,
If there was a burned grain bag, we wouldn't we can't recycle anything that's burned anyway. So
No.
yeah.
No.
and unfortunately, with the research that was done with our project at NRC, it does happen because
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the cost. Um, each grain bag weighs about 450 pounds, at
Hmm.
least, and then to landfill each one of those, you're talking some big money to landfill, and unfortunately, some people are gonna try a workaround, and
Sure.
it's not it's not an environmental workaround. So um, yeah, I don't think we have any more questions,
There's a
but I would just
couple, there's a
you have
couple
one.
questions. Well, no,
Oh,
just from Samantha. There's quite a few in there.
Awesome.
Do
did I
you
miss?
work with, yeah, okay, in the kind of in the middle there, which thank you, Samantha, for asking so many questions. Do you mind if I just jump in?
Yeah,
I see
do
them in
it.
front of me. Thank you so much for taking charge of that though, Karina. She asked, do you work with TerraCycle to take back fast food polyplastic? I thought that was interesting.
Now, there's specific plastics, and you guys will have to forgive me. I still don't know everything. It's almost like we change overnight. Sometimes we'll take some plastics, and sometimes we won't. But if you can imagine, like stretch film plastics, things that are in bulk, silage cover, grain bags, long poly tubing, things that are very, very pliable. White or black, usually plastic plays into it. Real small bags like Kroger bags or IGA bags or things like that. There's just not enough bulk in that type of stuff. If we were to take those in, they'd have to be baled up, and they'd have to just be thousands of bales for it to really work for us.
And that
Like that's
is,
not what your system is set up for,
Yeah, that's right. We
unfortunately.
we really need bulk to bring it
but
in.
that
That's the
is
whole.
some, sorry, that is
Yeah.
something that First Star Fiber Solutions Plastic does take through the Hefty Orange Bag program. And similar to TerraCycle, they make those into other products, pelletized for PCR, or make it into that lumber. So that is a local end market, as far as those other smaller films.
There's another question. What incentives do you give farmers for recycling their grain bags? I feel like you kind of answered that, but you could maybe say a tiny bit more.
Yeah, we pick it up at no cost, really. We
Yeah,
I think
bypass
that's
the
a good one.
landfill is what we do. Yeah.
that I think that's a huge incentive. Like for me, I think I mean, why wouldn't you? Even if it took a little extra work to
Yeah.
get them rolled up, like it's free.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, what you have these enormous amounts of what's trash, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
Landfill.
Landfill.
Yeah.
Yep.
But like,
Yep.
but you have to
Landfill.
do that too. I know you
Or
do.
dig a hole. I've had guys talk about digging holes and just burying them. So,
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yep.
That's old school.
well,
Yep.
they're out in the boonies, so they can do
That's right.
different things. So,
Yep.
But so the hope is, it sounds like is there's some places throughout Nebraska and throughout the Midwest that don't have easy access to, get their grain bags, to be recycled. But it sounds like that's in process,
There are
just
some,
location wise.
well, like Spud, Karina. Spud is Spud Riley that I met
Yeah.
last year. Spud hauls stuff around. That's what he does. So he
He
hauls plastics from one place to another. Yep.
he basically runs the entire western side of Nebraska recycling. Anything that's being
Excuse me.
recycled in the western side of our state, Spud Raleigh does it all. I mean, he is imperative to our system right now, and uh, just knock on wood, nothing happens to him or he decides to quit because
Mhm.
we need more people like Spud out there doing what he does.
Sometimes identifying the bottlenecks in programs like this is as important as the beauty, kind of the beauty. We get caught up in the beauty of the program. And what I've seen in the last 16 years with adoption of new technology here in the Delta has always been things like, I don't have a roller, right? I can't roll the stuff up directly from the field. I don't have enough of it, so it's not really worth it. Or I don't have a centralized location to take everything back to. And the beauty of co-ops is certainly that. And I guess the more exciting a co-op might get around somebody coming to their property, there might be other things that they could buy, but they could also use that as a drop-off point. So the co-op is exciting for me to kind of get in touch with.
I think so too, and I think that will be something great about this video, the recording of this video, if we can get it out to all the Nebraska co-ops and say, here, look at, just watch this and think about it, you
Sure.
know?
We're
Samantha she asked one last question here about NRC. Would NRC be able to open up a grant to apply for labor costs associated with recycling the grain bags? We can't do that. I would suggest going directly through Nebraska Environmental Trust or the Nebraska Department of Water, Environment, and Energy. So that's what I'd say to that.
Thank you so much. We're about at time, so just in respect for everyone's time, we can start to wrap up. But I want to thank you all so much for taking the time. I hope this is a super helpful resource to farmers who, are thinking about doing this or were curious. They can just watch this video and learn kind of more of the ins and outs. Do any of you have some final words right as we finish up?
I'll just say, yeah, any farmers co-ops, farmers, anyone interested, get on our website, Nebraska Recycling Council. Will lead you in the right direction. We have tons of resources. Even if you're not just into grain bag recycling, other ag plastics, we can guide you in the right direction. Also, consider being a member. Help us improve recycling across the state. And yeah, basically, just thanks for being here and thanks everyone for presenting and Molly for hosting us and helping us get along with this.
Yeah, I would echo that as well. Always want to keep the recycling council, in the loop with things. So just reach out to them and their website and learn more about the program. And thanks so much to Gene. Thank you, Gene, for being here
Sure.
tonight. Yeah,
No
Yeah, thanks,
problem.
Gene.
appreciate you.
All right.
All right. I think you have to close us out, Chris, because you're the
Okay,
host.
okay. Well, thanks everyone. Okay.
Thank you all so much. Have a great night, everybody.